Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Open Your Eyes to the Universe. I'm Gabrielle Martin, your host for this evening. And as we begin our episode tonight, the Universe team would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, to the sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. And we also acknowledge and respect the wise elder within us all and the collective wisdom of all those here this evening. And it's been some time since we connected with you. Actually, it feels like ages. We've been offline producing a hybrid event at the Sydney Opera House called Wayfinders, Ordinary People Changing the World. The intent of the event was to create a progressive mood shift. So many things we're seeing in our world and in our communities today, but to create a kind of progressive mood shift from darkness to light, from despair to hope, perhaps from confusion to clarity, chaos to order, hatred to harmony, and that disconnection that we so often feel to belonging. And we were doing this through a transformative conversation on wayfinding. It showcased ordinary people doing extraordinary things, shining a light on a way forward and changing the world for the better. It was facilitated by Dr. Julia Baird, the renowned Australian journalist, broadcaster, and best-selling author, and she was in conversation with Sister Janti, our additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris, and Sister Janti led the audience in 3 beautiful meditations. Both of them were joined by the Honourable Linda Burney, the former Minister for Indigenous Australians and member for Barton, and Reverend John Owen, the CEO of Wayside Chapel. They explored 3 key themes: you are not alone, the anchor within, and the third theme, I am the shift, we are the shift. And they were joined by international messengers, and they added valuable insight into these key themes. Her Excellency Mrs. Draupadi Murmu, the Honourable President of India, Miss Katrin Jakobsdottir, the former Prime Minister of Iceland, and she spoke of the importance of love and compassion and values in leadership today. And also Christiana Figueres, the founding partner of Global Optimism and the former Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC. And she implored us and inspired us to step up and discover the leader that lies within each one of us, rooted in kindness and compassion for ourselves and others and the environment. The arts and music are always key elements in our spiritual journey, and I'm sure you'd agree with that. And our event was enriched immensely by leading musicians and performing artists, including Angels in Our Town, legendary jazz musician James Morrison, famous concert pianist Simon Tedeschi, sacred soprano Heather Lee, accompanied by Professor Kim Cuneo, drummer and composer David Jones and Carmen Warrington, and a Sydney gospel choir, Cafe of the Gate of Salvation, led by singer-composer Tony Backhouse. I'm hoping that you managed to watch it online. I know we emailed you about it. And if you didn't watch it online, it's even better if you were in person. But if you missed out, then Jan will place the link in the chat box and you can check it out online later on. But here we are tonight on Youniverse, and it's lovely to be back with you. And we're discussing the power of silence with long-time meditation expert Sister Meera Nagananda. She joined the Brahma Kumaris in 1968 after completing her Bachelor of Science degree at Mysore University in India. Sister Meera is currently based in Malaysia, where she plays a leading role in directing and guiding the Brahma Kumaris in the Asia-Pacific region. And over a span of more than 50 years, Sister Meera has researched intensely into the subject of mind-matter relations and is currently an authority on this, on mind management and spiritual empowerment. She's dedicated her life to world service, traveling extensively to more than 50 countries, delivering thought-provoking lectures in government departments and schools and prisons, in women organisations and universities, in management training institutes, and numerous international forums to thousands of people on spiritually related topics. Today, she regularly conducts retreats and courses for different professions at Asia Retreat Centre in Malaysia. Sister Meera is able to present complex esoteric matters in a simple, clear, and logical manner. I've known Sister Meera for many decades, and I often think of her not just as a spiritual teacher and spiritual leader, but as a spiritual scientist. You know, just as we have environmental scientists, nuclear scientists, social scientists, and so on, well, Sister Meera is a spiritual scientist. She takes a metaphysical principle, she deeply explores it and experiments with it, checking its validity, its usefulness, where and in what kind of situations it's useful, its impact on herself and others. And in this way, she's not only a very seasoned yogini, but she shares her learnings and insights with others equanimously. So, Sister Meera, it's a joy to be with you. Thank you for coming on to Youniverse tonight, and a very, very warm welcome to you virtually to Australia.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for your warm welcome.
Yeah, it's a delight to have you with us. I think it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Malaysia. Is that right?
It's 4 o'clock now.
4 o'clock.
Yes.
There we go. So afternoon tea for you, and we're just heading into our evening. Sister Meera, it's going to be a wonderful conversation, so thank you for being part of it. I wanted to begin by just really unpacking this aspect of silence. It's many different meanings by different traditions, and almost all spiritual traditions that I know of emphasize silence, and they also regard it as sacred. Why do you think this is the case? And more importantly, what does silence mean to you on a personal level?
First of all, I would like to say good afternoon, good night to all our listeners, and greetings of peace. For me, actually, silence is on two levels. One is mental level, and the other is physical level. I look at mental silence is free from waste thinking, and physical silence is quietness. And one of the reasons I find why people consider silence as sacred is because when I am in silence, I am able to listen to myself and prepare myself to listen to the divine and listen to others. So that power of listening becomes more precise when we go into that sacred space of silence.
So, Sister Meera, what are you actually thinking about when you're in silence? Like, do you try to stop your mind from thinking? I'm not even sure that that's possible. Or is it more a case of selecting which thoughts you'd like to have? You talked about waste thoughts.
For me, when I go into silence, I neither stop thinking or suppress my mind or reject any thoughts. I just allow the flow of thoughts in my mind, and I choose a few positive thoughts and I concentrate on that. So as a result of that, I begin to feel relaxed and I begin to feel the inner calmness. So I enjoy that moment, of calmness, of being at peace with myself, peace with others, and peace with the nature.
So it's not that you're suppressing or repressing a thought, you're
No.
inviting the thoughts in, and yet you're selecting thoughts. So, how do you still your mind?
How do I?
Excuse me.
I still my mind not by suppression or by controlling. I try to channelize the energy of my mind in a positive direction. So when I begin to channelize my mind in a positive direction, I begin to feel the feeling of relaxation and inner quiet. So those moments are very enjoyable. So I always look forward for those moments in between during the day when I'm very busy doing things. I make sure I pause few moments here and there to find that calmness, inner quiet.
Yeah, so tell us about your daily routine. How do you personally integrate silence into your day, and include your meditation sessions?
For me, actually, when I meditate, I first of all make sure I am my mind, my intellect, my subconsciousness, all are working in harmony. I call that state of mind a state of soul consciousness. So the first step, I try to become aware of my true self. So, which is the nature of the true self is peace. So I am able to begin to feel peace within, because I believe that silence of the mind is not thoughtlessness, but it is harmony, balance between the three faculties of the soul, which is mind, intellect, and subconsciousness. So when I have that harmony within, I begin to feel the authentic peace that we all have within ourselves emerging naturally without forcing.
Wow, so it's quite a different practice, isn't it? You're not trying to blank out your thoughts, you're
Right.
actually inviting peaceful thoughts into your mind. And you talked about mind and intellect there, and you talked about soul. Can you just unpack that a little bit for us here?
See, we all understand that human life is made up of two types of energies, physical and metaphysical. So, when I meditate or when I go into silence, first of all, I try to focus my attention on the metaphysical aspect. The physical aspect will automatically follow. So I begin my meditation by understanding who am I, where I have come from, why I am here. So when I am able to unlock these questions in my mind, I begin to experience the flow of peace. For me, mind is the power of thinking. Desires, emotions, feelings, all are included as a part of our mind. And intellect is the power of judgment, decision making. And subconsciousness is the power of action. So when I am aware of my true self, I am a soul. I am the living energy, the metaphysical energy, the soul. I am able to allow these three faculties to work in harmony. And that is when I am able to feel the natural peace from within without suppressing the mind, without stop thinking, but my thinking change into experience. You are not blank when you are in silence, but your thoughts will change into experience. And that is why we savor the experience of peace. And silence can be experienced on 3 levels. You begin experiencing stillness of the body, and then quietness of the mind. And then thirdly, you go into inner silence, and then you begin to experience the dead silence, ending up with the sweet silence. And so when I am able to experience different stages of silence, it gives me an opportunity to strengthen my thoughts. They say silence is golden, speech is silver. So once I have started to taste the power of silence, I would speak less words, but those words will carry so much of value that it gets materialized. Automatically you are able to see your thoughts getting accomplished. So that is why, we are always told by our ancestor souls, our elders, think before you speak, think before you act. So what it means, think, means pause. I need to teach myself to pause every moment so that I can listen to my inner voice. We all have an inner voice, whisper, guiding us constantly because our mind is not silent. Mind is like a chatterbox. So we cannot listen to that inner voice. And so we just act haphazardly and regret for what we have done. But this practice helps us. I am able to pause so that I can listen to the inner voice, and I become more rational in my behavior, in my activities, instead of being just emotional. So I like this very much because silence helps you to keep the balance of your emotion and your rational thinking so that you are able to create the power within yourself.
Mm. Wow. I'm going to come back to those 3 levels that you talked about in a moment, but I'd like to pick up on this aspect of balancing your emotions. Um, in your experience, what kind of inner transformation can emerge through sustained silence? Like, how has practicing silence changed your perspective or your behavior?
Actually, for me, the power of silence has helped me to understand myself better. First step. Secondly, to know my weaknesses and my merits, my virtues. And so, after I have identified my weaknesses, meditation, power of silence has helped me to transform that defects into virtues, to transform that, deep rooted personality traits into positive personalities. So that magic of meditation is really amazing. How it changes. First you realize, and then the transformation happens with the power of silence.
Mm.
Because in the power of silence, you see your real self. You see your real self with your third eye of wisdom. So when you see your real self, and then when you compare with your present role that you are playing, you can easily understand this is not me, this is alien. Unless I realize my personality traits, which are negative, which are acquired, is alien, I will not let go of it. So for me, transformation of my personality traits or weaknesses have become wonder. And I may not realize that I have changed. For example, say I lack patience or tolerance. I may have developed those qualities after a period of power of silence. But people who work with me, who interact with me, pass the comment, oh, now you have become more patient. Now you have become more tolerant. So that gives me the confidence that the power of silence, the power of meditation has helped me realization and transformation.
Sounds like a very magical kind of experience, Sister Meera. What do you do in those moments when, or do you have those moments that are challenging? Perhaps you're sitting in silence and lots of the waste thoughts that you mentioned earlier come up, or perhaps you're seeing in that reflectiveness something that is disquieting you, perhaps something that you don't particularly like about yourself, or you've got caught up in a stream of waste thinking or thinking about others rather than focusing on yourself. Can you tell us how you harness your energy and move through that to come into this state of peace that you spoke of?
See, first of all, I use wisdom and knowledge at every step. For me, first is wisdom, knowledge, light. So whenever any situation comes in my life, first I use my knowledge that I have acquired. And in that light of knowledge, I am able to decide this is wrong and this is right. And so I choose that which is right and put a full stop to that which is not right. So, what has helped me to overcome this waste thinking or waste thoughts is the wisdom that I have gained through my practice, spiritual practice over a period of time. Like, for example, one concept I use a lot in my life is like a drama. Drama is always of variety. It cannot be the same thing all the time. And drama is constantly in motion. It changes. And one thing I believe very much is whatever happens in the drama, there is benefit. There is something to learn. So the moment I apply this wisdom in my life, I can put a full stop. That I will wait. What benefit is there in this scene of drama will be revealed to me. So drama, knowledge, and patience both together helps me to apply a full stop. So my waste thought change into best thoughts.
Mm. So silence is stillness for you, but it's also a very active, transformational space
Yes.
spiritually on a deep level. So you're a spiritual leader and a spiritual teacher. How do you use silence in your role as a spiritual leader and teacher? You've talked about it in terms of your own personal transformation, but I'm sure you're making decisions throughout the day. And I'm just curious as to how you would use silence, or do you use silence to help inform your decision making process? Do you use it as a decision making tool? And how do you use silence in your role as a spiritual leader and a spiritual teacher?
So one thing I always do is before we start any meeting, or any discussion, I always say, let us have a moment of silence. Let us gather all thoughts together. So that gives me an opportunity to settle down, you know. And then secondly, when others are talking, at that time, I am able to listen instead of hearing. So because listening is active, hearing is passive. So I consciously make effort to listen so that I am able to reply accurately what they want. So what I have seen is because I actively participate by listening in the conversation, so whatever reply I give is convincing to others. You know, there is no conflict inside me, and so I am replying with that inner harmony. And also, sometimes I also practice detachment. It's very important. You can, there are people who could be speaking long talk, but maybe it is not necessary for me to listen to them. But I make sure that I am detached observer while I am in a gathering, so that I am not affected by the behavior of other souls. So I don't have that impact on myself. So some of these methods I use in my day-to-day interaction so that I am able to, carry on with my responsibilities with love and law.
That's that's a very deep response, Sister Meera, and I can see how it's a very practical experience, or it becomes very practical. What I'd like to do at this moment is play a short video from Brian Tracy. He's now in his 80s. He's a Canadian-American motivational public speaker and self-development author. And he's got a little short clip on how to activate the superconscious mind through solitude. He's only talking about solitude. He does also talk about silence. And he's using it as a means of problem solving, among other things. So let's have a little look at this video, and then I'd love to have a conversation with you about it.
Thank you.
How do you activate the superconscious mind? Here is the most powerful of all. We call this the master method of activation. It is called solitude. You activate the superconscious mind with solitude. Now, how do you use solitude? We call this go into the silence. Go and sit down quietly by yourself for 30 to 60 minutes. 30 to 60 minutes. Most people in our society have never sat quietly for 30 to 60 minutes in their entire lives. Yet I will tell you this method works 100% of the time. That any problem that you have, any difficulty, any challenge, any goal that you want to accomplish, if you'll go into the silence and sit quietly and then listen to the still small voice within, this is the key. You will find that at a certain point, probably at about 25 to 30 minutes, your mind will go completely clear. And then a flow of ideas will start to flow into your mind. You'll feel energy welling up inside you. And at a precise moment, as you sit there in complete silence, no cigarettes, no coffee, no music, nothing, just complete silence, at a particular moment, your mind will go clear, and wham, exactly the answer you need will come at exactly the right time. And if you will get up and go and carry out that answer, it will turn out to be exactly perfect.
So in that video, which I think is the 1950s, he's talking about going into solitude and silence, sitting quietly for 30 to 60 minutes and listening to your inner voice. He doesn't give any details around what you do in that silence, or the way you think in that silence. But Sister Meera, I think you've given a fuller account of that, and in the Brahma Kumari's tradition, silence is defined not just as an absence of sound, and not just solitude, but it's defined as a spiritual state. Can you elaborate on that? Like, what is the difference between, say, soul-powered silence, which you've been speaking of, and the ordinary mental stillness or withdrawal that was evident in that video we just watched?
Actually, I just wanted to make it very clear also the difference between isolation and solitude.
Yes.
Because it's very important. I remember during COVID time, we used to go in quarantine, and I was in 16 days quarantine alone, and I enjoyed that solitude. But some people call it as isolation because isolation makes you feel lonely. But solitude, even though you are alone, you don't feel lonely. You enjoy being in your company. That is what was my experience for those 16 days in quarantine during COVID. I enjoyed that moments every second. I was alone physically, but I was not lonely at all. One thing, I enjoyed being in my company. Most of us don't enjoy being in our company. We always cling on to somebody else, some companion, dependency. So silence gives me an opportunity to enjoy solitude because it is created by my practice of knowing who am I, and where I have come from and why I am here. It is a kind of silence that I experience based on wisdom and understanding.
Why
But
do you think it is that people are afraid of silence, Sister Meera? Like,
because many people feel that silence is dead.
silence is what?
Lifeless. Silence is dead.
Right.
It has no life.
Ah,
They
right.
always connect silence with some evil energy. Sometimes it could be with some ghost and some kind of scary thing. That is why they don't want to go into darkness in
Right.
silence, because there is loneliness. But when I understand the real meaning of silence, I enjoy going into the depth of it, because you are knowing yourself as you are, what you are, and begin to love yourself. It's a kind of meditation, is a self-dialogue. In silence, I talk to myself. So when I talk to myself in silence, I am not alone. I am able to connect with myself and energize with myself. That is why in science, they say, wherever your attention goes, your energy flows and life grows. So when you begin to focus your energy on yourself, your inner energy begins to grow and you activate the inner energy, so you are able to make use of that energy in different actions when you come onto the field of action. So I see isolation and solitude are totally different things.
Yes, I understand. So if someone's afraid of silence, how do you actually teach them to become comfortable with silence? How would you go
They
about doing
have
that?
to face that which they are scared of at once, at least one time. If you are scared of silence because you feel lonely, you got to teach yourself you are not alone. You are always with yourself in your company. If you are scared about darkness, you face the darkness because you remember that you are a point of light. So the awareness of being light removes the fear of darkness. You know, lifelessness, people relate silence to, but real silence is full of life, full of enjoyment, because it is the natural quality of I, the being of light, the soul. So when we practice some of these, when we teach some of these practice to people, many of them have overcome the fear of facing silence.
Mm. It's probably timely now, Sister Meera, to ask you to take us into a meditation commentary, to guide us into a meditation, to experience the sacredness of silence and that feeling of being
Yes.
connected with the self. Can I ask you to do that?
Yes. So what I would like to request you to do is just wherever you are, sit comfortably and relaxed, breathe in and out in a normal way. And just turn your mind within and visualize on the screen of your mind a tiny dot of light. I am light, a being of light. Try to focus your thought in the center of that being of light and try to dive deep into that point. As I begin to dive deep into that being of light, my real self, I discover peace. I am peace. Vibrations of peace emanates from within and fills my mind. My mind has become like a calm lake without any ripples. I enjoy these moments of being at peace with myself. Peace and silence. Peace and silence. And in this experience, I am totally inside, enjoying the inner peace, inner power. I am experiencing myself becoming very, very light and weightless. In this experience of being light, being weightless, I am able to move away from this body and see myself floating beyond the attraction of this matter. Enjoy freedom. Enjoy inner peace. Enjoy inner power, inner silence. I am not lonely. I am enjoying being myself. true self. Having experienced my inner peace and inner power, I slowly return to my body to perform action, but now with a new awareness of being the master of my mind, the master of my sense organs. I am peace. I am silent. I am balanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Meera. That was a lovely guide into that experience of silence and, you know, the role silence plays in self-awareness and connection with myself as an inner being, a soul. Can you think of a time and share a time in your life when silence spoke louder than words?
Yeah, I think there is a expression used in English. They say, the less you speak, the more you are heard. You know, many times people think that they want to express themselves in words so that they are not left out. But in fact, when you are not speaking, you are speaking, but in silence. Because the vibrations that you create, the atmosphere you create when you have that silence of the mind, makes people receptive to what you are going to say after your silence. You know, this I have experienced from one of our seniors. She always keeps very quiet in any of our meetings. So we wonder what she is thinking all the time. But she is emitting silence in that space. And when her turn comes to share, she speaks very few words only. But the impact of her words is so deep that everybody is touched by that. And not only that, unanimously, everyone agree with what she's saying. So silence has the power, more power than the words. That is why it is said, silence is golden, speech is silver. So it is good for us to listen more and speak less. You know, that's why in communication, what is more important? Not speaking, listening, conscious listening. I can do conscious listening only when I have silence of the mind. You know, when somebody else is talking, if I am planning in my mind what I am going to respond to that person, there is no silence, isn't it? I have to keep my mind quiet so that I get that touching, clear intellect, get the intuition, what words and how much words you have to use, and that is all you say, and you become very successful. That is my experience, and also learning from the experience of others with whom I am also working.
So silence enables you to be a deep listener in that
Yes,
sense.
yes.
Yeah. We have a huge variety of telecommunication devices that allow us to speak and see people on the other side of the world. Like right now, for example, you're in Malaysia and I'm in the Blue Mountains of Australia, and we're having a conversation where I can see you and understand what you're saying, and people are listening to this, um, listening to our conversation from oceans away in many parts of the world. So, with that in mind, in what ways can silence be used as a communication tool? I'd kind of like you to unpack this idea of how can we connect with people on the other side of the world through silence, and how does it work?
Silence is an unspoken language which has no barriers. You can speak with the power of thought, power of feelings, and that can travel like laser. The vibrations of silence, which is filled with good wishes and pure feelings, will travel like laser and reach to any part of the world in no time. And they can respond to you at the same time. It works even better than our mobile or internet or information technology. So that is why we always tell people, together with this age of science, you must develop the power of silence. There will come a time where you may not be able to use these devices, but you can communicate with the power of thought. I tell you something amazing. I can even communicate with God in silence. I talk to God in silence, and God listens to me in silence language. So, silence is made up of three components: pure thoughts, pure feelings, and language of the eyes. So, if I can develop these three components, I can speak as loudly I want in silence and allow my sound to reach to the whole world. You don't need any microphone or microscope and nothing. You don't need anything. It can do wonders.
I'd like to go back just a little bit. I love what you're saying around, you can speak to God in silence. Have you had an experience or can you share an experience where you've thought of something or you've connected with someone in another part of the world through silence and they've connected with you?
Yes, many experiences, many.
Hmm.
A telephone, like I remember someone, I want to give this message to this person to do this. I come to the telephone, I have not even dialed the number, and that person is calling me. Sister, I have already finished this task that you wanted me to do. I haven't even told them what task, but they already caught my thought and they have accomplished the task and they are just giving me the news. This kind of experience you will have when you have accumulated the power of silence.
Yeah.
Accumulated power of silence gives you to catch the vibrations of others.
So you've had very tangible experiences of the power of silence and connecting with others in the power of silence, and it's resulted in very
You're
practical
unmute and yeah, you can
and
unmute.
it's resulted in very practical things. What about the power of silence and connecting with the divine through silence. You talked earlier about three levels of silence, and one of them, the third, was deep silence. Can you unpack this for us, the moving into deep silence and how you connect with the divine through silence?
Actually, as I said, the language of God is silence. In silence we speak, which means the power of thoughts. And so when I visualize God, the being of light, on the screen of my mind, I connect with the divine. I begin to experience the sweet silence, a silence that liberates the soul from all kinds of bondages. It's a divine silence of my eternal home, a land of liberation from where all souls came onto this earth to play our part. So that is a beautiful experience of liberation, sweet silence one can experience in one's awareness of being at home in the company of God, the divine. That is also the meaning of yoga. Yoga means link, connection, union. So when I become aware of myself as a soul, and in that soul consciousness, when I connect myself with the divine, I am able to draw that power of silence to such an extent, even I myself go into deep silence. And I am able to hold that connection for a while. That is what is very important. So it is sweet silence, a silence that releases the soul from all kinds of bondages and enjoying freedom.
So is it the power of the divine that in this sweet silence that enables changes in your personality, the transformation in self that we talked of earlier?
Yes, it's true.
So if someone listening has never experienced a connection with the divine in silence, what is one step they can take to begin?
So actually, first step they need to begin is to know themselves who they are, know thyself. Because the first step begins by knowing myself as a soul, a living energy separate from the body. Because my relationship with the divine is spiritual, nothing to do with the physical. So when I identify myself with that spiritual identity and connect myself with that supreme light, the divine, I am able to draw that power. I am able to draw that supreme energy that can manifest in different forms in my activities, like power to tolerate, power to adjust, power to accommodate. There are 8 powers that we develop through the connection with the divine in silence, and those powers helps me to lead my life like a lotus, detached and loving. You are very much in the world, but not of the world. So you are able to play your role as a hero actor whilst playing your part.
It's probably timely now, Sister Meera, to ask you if you could guide us into a meditation that allows us to connect with the divine and to feel that deep silence.
Okay, so let us once again become aware of ourselves, a tiny point of light, a soul in the center of my forehead. I am light, a being of light, full of peace and love. In 1 second, I move away from this body and I see myself floating beyond the world of cosmos into the dimension of golden red light. In this region of golden red light, I see myself in the presence of the supreme light. I connect myself with the supreme light. Like the sun, rays of light filled with might, filled with love, filled with peace is empowering me. I am totally lost in the experience of sweet silence. I am silent. I am balanced. I am free. I enjoy these moments of being with the divine, tasting the sweet silence. I feel I am totally energized, empowered, prepared to return to this world to play my role. I see myself returning to my body, radiating this sweet silence out into the world so that everyone else enjoy the vibrations of sweet silence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Meera. That was lovely. That was a very deep meditation. In this last section of our conversation, I wanted to sort of start to focus on some of the more practical things around everyday living. Could you explain karmic accounts and to also give us an understanding of how silence helps settle karmic accounts?
So first of all, it's a big topic, within a short time. I try my best to share whatever I can. Karma, first of all, means action. What is the definition of karma? Energy using the matter. That is called karma. We perform 3 types of karma on this field of action. Neutral action, sinful action, and positive action, So each type of action gives rise to certain type of fruit. All action that I perform in body consciousness is called sinful because it is done under the 5 vices like lust, greed, anger, attachment, ego. All actions performed in soul consciousness and God consciousness is called sukarma, good action that brings happiness to myself and happiness to others. And neutral karma is when we are only soul conscious. Of course, according to the present time, we do not perform any neutral actions right now because we have a lot of burden of sinful actions on our head. We have to settle them. How do we know we are settling? Is through many signals. Maybe one through physical sickness that we go through. Second, some conflict in our relationship. Sometimes we also have karma with the elements of matter. And so when I practice the power of silence, it helps me a lot to change my suffering of karma into karma yoga, because it allows me to take responsibility. Whatever is happening in my life, I am responsible. So in silence, I turn my mind within, I connect myself with the divine, and I take the power to overcome those karmic accounts so that it can be settled faster and easily. I don't blame anyone. I am responsible, and I am ready to take responsibility. And in silence also, it helps me to stop performing any more of sinful action, because in silence, your power of decision making work precisely. You know what is right and what is wrong. You listen to your inner voice very often, and because of that, you use wisdom. So you do not perform any more of those sins. So you stop performing sins and you start accepting what is happening to you in your life. So it is a shortcut that you can help yourself to settle your karma faster.
Sister Meera, that is a big topic, and thank you for explaining it so succinctly. Thank you very much. I've got another question here, and it's around, you focused on silence and its use and using it very positively and the strength of silence. I'm wondering about those situations where silence could be used to avoid things, avoid doing necessary things, or those moments when, people stay silent as a way of, in the face of injustice or abuse, and not speaking out about it. Can you make some comment on that? That would seem to me to be a misuse of silence. Is that right?
But sometimes it is better not to speak instead of speaking wrong things. So you just wait for the right time. So you avoid confronting people. I am not suppressing my conscience. I am not moving away from the situation, but you have to have patience. What is patience? Be calm and wait. So sometimes when we have patience, people can misunderstand this as avoidance. So patience is necessary for peace. And so if I have patience and I wait to say the right thing at the right time, it is not wrong. But because of fear, sometimes people have fear of authority, fear of certain laws, so they don't speak out what they want. So they keep silent. But their mind is speaking inside. That is not silence. So silence should be of the mind, not of the lips. So if that is the case, then that is true silence. If you keep quiet verbally, but your mind is running fast, so that is not called silence.
So when you are enlightened, or when you're using the power of silence, and when you've developing yourself spiritually, do you see a time when you can come into action and help through action, not just through silence, but through action, address some of the challenges in our world with injustice?
Because sometimes silence speaks, silence speaks louder than words. That's what
Yes.
I said earlier. When you're not saying something, you are saying something. When we are saying too much, we are not saying anything. So that is why we need to have power of discrimination, where to say, how much to say, and when to say, and how to say. So when we learn the art of communication in this way, we will be always successful.
I wanted to look at some of the things in terms of the outside world. Like today, our world's very, very complex, marked by, economic challenges, social inequity, the abuse of power and authority. There's huge pollution, including phenomenal levels of noise pollution, wars that never seem to end, and new ones starting, increasing social chaos, the melting of our planet, rising levels of loneliness and anxiety. And, despite the exponential increase in technologies that enable instant and transnational communication and connectivity, but yet increasingly we feel disconnected and disengaged. And many people feel overwhelmed and powerless, as if, life's unfolding beyond their grasp. So within that context, Sister Meera, how is the power of silence useful amidst all of this turmoil? And can the power of silence become a tool for world transformation to create a better and brighter future?
Yeah, definitely power of silence can become a tool for creating a bright future, but if it's used in the right way, if it is used in the right way, just like they say, tongue can do work in two ways. Tongue has no bones, but it can kill people like swords. Tongue can also become like a needle and thread to make relationship or break relationship. So actually, what we need to understand is, exercise your three faculties of the soul. The mind, see, first thought comes in the mind, and then the intellect judges that thought, and then you perform action. So if I have enough wisdom in my mind, in my intellect, then I can use that wisdom to discern my thoughts. Now, what is lacking in our society is we are more emotional than rational. The balance is not there. So we have to create a balance between the head and the heart. And to create the balance between the head and the heart, I need to return to my true self-awareness again and again. Who am I? What am I? So the moment I return to my original identity, authentic identity, I am able to master the three powers of the soul. And when all of us attain that self-mastery, the world will become a better place. But today we have lost the mastery. We have become slaves to ourselves. And that is why we are not able to overcome the situation that we are facing.
So, world transformation through individual
Yes.
self-transformation. Look, could you lead us into a meditation, a final meditation this evening, to take us into the depths of silence and how it actually heals our world?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me turn my mind within. Let me observe the thoughts flowing on the screen of my mind without suppressing, without rejecting. Let me choose a few positive thoughts. I am light. I am peace. I am love. I am light. I am merciful. As I create these positive thoughts and allow the thoughts to flow in my mind, I begin to create an atmosphere filled with positive energy of peace, of love and light. Gradually, inner transformation begins. I realize my true nature is peace. My true nature is love. My true nature is mercy. With that realization, I begin to vibrate those positive energy out into the world. When all of us begin to vibrate the soul qualities, the authentic qualities out into the atmosphere, the negative energy gradually disappears. Just like when you put the light on, the darkness disappears. So I enjoy this self-transformation of changing my pattern of thoughts from negative to positive, so that I become instrument to create a positive atmosphere, a positive culture, a positive society. So together we create a positive world filled with peace, love, and happiness. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Meera. I'm wondering, before we close, if there's anything further you'd like to share with us about the power of silence.
I just wanted to say what I have said before, silence is the only medicine to heal the world. Let us increase our power of silence, heal ourselves, and heal the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Meera. That's a very special message. Look, our thanks and our blessings to you for sharing your insights and also your personal experiences of the power of silence and how you use this power in your everyday living. It's been a really enriching conversation. And also, I'd like to thank you for the way that you've dedicated your life to the power of silence, to really understanding it deeply and being able to share it with others, and uplift humanity. So self-transformation and global transformation. Thank you, Sister Meera, for joining us on Youniverse. It's been lovely to have you with us.
So thank you for inviting me to share some of my experiences. I hope it will help the audience and it will help me also to enrich myself in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sister Meera, very, very much. And I hope to have you back on Universe at some stage too, perhaps
Yes,
unpacking the laws of karma.
yes, yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Meera. Well, viewers, we've been listening to Sister Meera sharing her insights on the spiritual power of silence to connect with oneself as an inner being and the divine. She's also shared about its capacity to positively transform oneself, influence the transformation of others, and also to heal our world. So if you'd like to subscribe to Open Your Eyes to the Universe to receive monthly updates, please email us at special.events@au.brahmakumaris.org. And as I close out, I'd like to let you know about I Meditate at 180 George Street in the Sydney CBD. So every Thursday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., our doors are open for individuals seeking tranquility and personal growth. Our program is always free of charge and offers a diverse range of experiences from meditation classes that can help quieten the mind and reduce stress to empowering seminars designed to inspire and educate. The serene environment is specially designed to foster stillness, silence, and reflection. So drop in and experience the stillness amidst the hustle and bustle of the city. And as we close out tonight, we'll play Silence by Bliss. And until we see you again next month, take care and walk lightly on this earth. Om Shanti.